Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel, and today we're going to be talking specifically about what it means to have your moon in Virgo or moon in the 6th house. My name is Brandon. This is a part of a much larger series that I am doing here on YouTube. Obviously, this is astrology, so if you're new to astrology, hi. This is a big, deep wormhole that you really just stepped into here. And the thing that's really interesting about this particular series is that I'm going through every single planet and every single sign and house in that order. And so we're now at Virgo week, so just did the sun in Virgo, doing moon in Virgo, and then we're doing all of the 6th house planets as well. So there is a lot to be said with that. There is also a playlist down below if you're interested in checking that out, where you can look to see all the other videos prior to this. So if you have Leo placements, if you have Cancer placements, so on and so forth, those are all kind of in that playlist down below, and I will be updating this playlist as the season kind of comes through. So with that being said, also if you're brand new to this and you're like, I don't know what astrology is, what are all these things, I'd recommend you check out in the description box below. There's a little video that you can check out where I just kind of go over the basics, and also just like kind of what specifically your birth chart is. I have a link down below for that too, so feel free to check those things out. I do also have down below the timestamps, so if you want to check out when you're talking about what, so if you have your moon in Virgo but not in the 6th house, feel free to check that out down there. And I will be talking about what the moon means in astrology as well prior to any of this. And of course, as you guys know, since this is YouTube, feel free to like, comment, share, subscribe. All those things are going to help me out, because this is what I do for a living. This is what I love to do. I really enjoy being able to provide astrological content and guidance for people. And of course, on that note as well, if you're interested in booking with me, if you like the way that I speak, that I go through astrology, feel free to check out my website below too. So with that being said, let's just kind of go in specifically to what just the moon means within astrology. All right, so the moon in astrology is a waxing and waning body, meaning that the things that are related to the moon's placement are going to change with time. They're going to have the ups and downs of the waves that is related to lunar energy. Also, there is going to be a lot of connections with the moon and how we nourish ourselves, how we take care of ourselves, how we meet our emotional needs. There's a lot of things revolving around that kind of tend to come up. So there is definitely an importance on being aware of what your emotional needs are and how to meet those things. And so depending upon your moon placement, it's going to show a lot of your family conditioning, specifically your maternal conditioning, and therefore also how you take care of yourself emotionally, how you meet your own emotional needs, and what you were shown as it relates to emotional regulation, emotional modeling, and also how that was given to you and how you perceive that you really want to get that and what emotionally regulates you. So the moon by house placement and aspect also has a lot of importance too, because you want to look at what that moon is doing, right? So if the moon, for example, is in, the 10th house, there's going to be a very different connection with the moon in the 10th house in Libra, right, than the moon in, Cancer in the 5th, right? There's going to be a lot of differences with that. So you want to look at to see what the moon's sign is, as well as the moon's placement by house, which is why I'm doing this whole series here. But in addition to that, you want to look at like the ruler of the moon. So if the moon is, in this example, ruled by Virgo, you're going to want to look to Mercury and see what Mercury is doing in the chart for kind of how you're reaching those emotional needs in that regard. And then also, of course, the aspect. So if the moon in Virgo is opposing the sun, or that would be considered a full moon, or if the moon is, in opposition or in square aspect to Saturn or Mars or Jupiter or Venus, there's going to be a lot of different conversations here. The moon moves quite quickly, so there is a really big importance upon the timing of your chart to figure out the moon, because the moon does change pretty quickly throughout the day. It's our fastest moving body, so an accurate birth time is really important to determine that moon sign placement by house, and also by sign too. So with all that being said, let's go into what the moon means specifically when it's in the sign of Virgo. Okay, so the moon in Virgo has a very hardened sort of emotionality to it, right? So when the moon is in an earth sign, right, it does really well in Taurus. It's exalted in Taurus. I did a video on moon in Taurus. If you're interested in that, check that out. But the moon in an earth sign, it really wants to bring the emotions into some sense of solidarity, reality, groundedness. It wants to ground the emotional world, right? And in Taurus, it makes sense. It understands that. It understands the ebb and flow. When we put it in Virgo or Capricorn, it has a little bit more of a difficulty understanding how to emotionally ground itself, okay? When it comes to Virgo placements, a lot of what they tend to ground through is through their mind, right? They're ruled by Mercury. So they tend to have a lot of desire to understand why they're feeling what they're feeling, right? So this is where you'll see amazing, amazing therapists and a lot of emotional intelligence. Honestly, emotional intelligence is a really big thing for Moon in Virgo, as well as Moon in Gemini, but Moon in Gemini is a little bit different because Moon in Virgo is a very introspective moon. All the moon signs are in their own way, but Virgo in itself is also an introspective kind of process, right? It's not really an extroverted thing. It's very introverted, looking at itself, analyzing, trying to critique itself, trying to improve itself. The Moon Virgo individuals typically also have a mother figure that is quite critical, or there's an emotional kind of inner instinct to like really try and figure itself out and understand how it's feeling, why it's feeling, what it's feeling, right? Those sorts of things you'll tend to see with the Moon in Virgo. And so the maternal nature of this person, how they met their needs, was typically through working, right? Through working, through getting stuff done, through being productive, through understanding the reasoning behind their feelings, being able to articulate that, right? So that's why, once again, the Moon Virgo can have a really, really great emotional intelligence in a lot of different ways. They do have a little bit of a control factor as well. This is similar to the Moon in Scorpio, but Moon Scorpio is very different than Moon Virgo, because Virgo is a lot about controlling and being really organized and intentional with your energy, right? And the moon always changes. And so when the moon's in Virgo, it's this time to get stuff done and plan for the next day. When the moon, the next day or so, whenever the moon moves into Libra or Scorpio or whatever it may be, right? And that Virgo time frame is really all about like when we're really planning for the next goal, doing the next thing, making our lists, understanding what we want to do next, right? That's a lot of the Virgo archetype. But when you have your moon in Virgo, it's kind of like that's a perpetual feeling. Like you're always feeling like you need to improve upon something. You need to understand your feelings more. You need to move towards your goal in this way. You need to plan this and do that. So there's a lot of understandably anxiety with the moon in Virgo. Any Virgo placement kind of has this anxiety because it's trying to really perfect its process, right? And in the moon, it's the emotional process. It's the ability to feel one's feelings, feels one's emotions, and be able to really understand the process behind them and the reasoning behind them, and the application, right? So there is definitely, with Moon in Virgo, there's an application of emotion that I think is really, really important to bring up. The purpose is to apply the information or apply the emotion towards their goal, right? So if the Moon Virgo can put their emotions into their work, they're going to have a lot of success. I find a lot of Moon Virgo people just naturally have a caretaking sort of quality to them. They're also quite perfectionistic because they want things to be really solid and understood and really worked towards perfection, right? And I think with Moon Virgo, it's really important to understand that perfection does not exist. You can definitely strive for perfection. It's very important, but there always will be flaws. There's always going to be issues and errors and things. And it's better to just go through the process of consistency and really fine-tuning your craft with the mistakes that happen, right? So it's a lot of a learning experience with Moon and Virgo, learning what it means to feel one's feelings and work with one's feelings. Understand that not every day you're going to feel super productive. Not every day you're going to be right on and you're going to understand exactly what needs to be said or what needs to be, brought up, or the importance of that information or the importance of that feeling, right? There's a sense with the Moon Virgo of putting their emotions to some sort of practical use, right? This is where you'll see, like I said, therapists, people that are really great at emotional caretaking, or even just emotional caregivers, social workers, right? You'll see that with Moon in Virgo. Sixth house energy kind of has that too. Being able to caretake for someone and really, really help someone in ways that, they wouldn't understand otherwise, right? This is very much acts of service. Acts of service is their love language. We'll kind of see that as we go through all these Virgo planets, sixth house planets here. There is a kind of underlying theme of taking care of someone else through acts of service and through just helping someone and being there and really helping someone in their day-to-day things, right? Sometimes people don't need a shoulder to cry on. Sometimes they need someone to really go in and help them clean their room, or help them go and vacuum, or go grocery shopping with them, or help them with this list, or help them kind of, you know, go through and conceptualize what needs to be done in their next step in their career. And Virgo placements are really great at that. The moon Virgo definitely has a very sensitive thing with that, so they're not going to share that with everyone. They're not going to share that kind of critical self with everyone, but they really do care, and they're really helpful in a lot of ways, and they really want to see the other person or whomever they're caring about, wherever their moon placement is by house. You're going to see that that's going to be where they put a lot of their emotion, a lot of their desire is going to be wherever that moon Virgo is placed by house, right? So it is important to know what the house placement is for moon Virgo, because they're going to, as well as the Mercury placement, because they're going to have a pretty strong emotional desire to improve that area, right? Improve that and that part of themselves in that area. What emotions they're putting into that, right? So if you see like a moon Virgo in the 7th house, for example, you'll see someone who is putting a lot of emotion into their relationships, and it's about learning, and they're almost critiquing themselves and figuring out, like, am I doing too much? Am I doing too little? Am I not, you know, expressing enough? Those sorts of things. Or if we have, you know, moon in the 2nd house in Virgo, that's going to be a really financial, kind of astute and consistent person of trying to really perfect the way that they're managing their money, right? And so it really depends on the house placement as well as aspects, right? Because if the moon is, you know, aspected by Pluto or aspected by Saturn, there's going to be a lot more emotional difficulty that person's going to have to go through to really tease out the details of their feelings, to be able to really express that to someone. Moon Virgo, it's really important to just know the importance of your feelings and the ability to understand why you're feeling what you're feeling, and be able to communicate that to whomever, even if it's just yourself, right? Write out your feelings, analyze your feelings. Don't beat yourself up for having them, right? Emotions are really important. They have a lot of power to them, and I think that's where understanding the practicality of emotions and not necessarily distancing yourself from them or suppressing them especially can have a lot of benefit for a moon Virgo, like allowing yourself to feel your feelings and express them in whatever way they want to come out, right? Put it into your work, put your passion, your emotion into your work, into improving something, and don't feel so hard on yourself to constantly get better and do better in those things, because Virgo placements have such a hardened critic within themselves, and they want to do better, they want to be better, and I think that's a great gift, but it's about not being so hard on yourself that you stress yourself out and your health becomes an issue or whatever it may be. Allowing your emotions to be, you know, brought into some sort of work, right? Brought into some sort of work, some sort of passion project, some sort of, you know, focus, right? There's a lot of things there that I would recommend as a moon Virgo person to really push you towards improving every day, right? Improving every day, even if it's small things, even if it's just having a routine. You're never going to have the routine perfect. It's never going to happen. But it is something that you can strive for. You can kind of have a baseline of routines and then inevitably bring those in more and more as you can emotionally handle them, because you don't want to emotionally burn yourself out. You don't want to emotionally lose control either. So there is a sense of balance between Virgo and Pisces that is really important, of having a sense of control and consistency and routine, but also not being so rigid and so contained that you're not allowing spirit or the higher guidance or whatever you prescribe to guide you, right? You're kind of containing that and not allowing yourself to see anything bigger, because you're trying to be so connected to the details and the importance of details, which they are very important, but there's something bigger out there, right? And that's where we have, like, you know, Jupiter and Pisces and Virgo kind of having a little bit of a struggle there, right? And I brought this up with the Sun Virgo video, but I'm kind of going to reiterate it here. The thing that's really interesting about Virgo, any mutable planet for that matter, so Virgo, Pisces, Sagittarius, and Gemini, they are all on in connection with Mercury and Jupiter, right? Because Mercury rules Gemini and Virgo, and Jupiter rules Sagittarius and Pisces. And what's really unique about this combination with mutability is it centers itself around like the mental perspective, the objective truth and the subjective truth, and the ability to kind of see beyond one's opinions, beyond one's experience, which is the Gemini and the Mercurial side of stuff, and beyond one's, you know, perspective, and be able to way above that in like a philosophical or a spiritual sense, or a way that doesn't make logical sense all the time. And so there is a really big importance when you have a lot of Virgo placements or sixth house placements to understand that yes, you are physically here, but you are a spiritual being having a human experience, not a human being having a spiritual experience, right? You need to really understand that divide when it comes to specifically Virgo and Pisces, and being able to really understand that there is a bigger world out there than the little tiny details. Yes, the devil is in the details, right? And there is a lot of importance in that, but you sometimes have to pull yourself out of that and feel the vastness of all these things that you can kind of feel and become, right? But I think it's so Virgo Pisces in a lot of ways. So that's it for the moon Virgo here. I really enjoy talking about Virgo placements. They have been really enjoyable just to go through the series here, because Virgo is such a fun energy, and so many people don't really speak well on it. And I think there's so much power in the mind when it comes to Virgo placements. And I only have one Virgo placement, but I still have, an understanding that logic and, critical nature is really important. So yeah, that's really all I have to say about Moon and Virgo. I'll see you guys in the next part. We're going to talk about specifically what it means to have your moon in the sixth house. And if you guys are interested in, any sort of thing with me, whether it's a reading or more of my course or more of these videos, feel free to check out down below. Obviously, I have my playlist down there for anything after Virgo, as well as everything before Virgo. And then, of course, if you want a reading with me, if you like the way that I kind of speak things, feel free to check that out down there too. So thank you guys so much. I'll see you guys next part. We talk about the moon in the sixth house. So we have the moon in the sixth house. This placement lends to a lot of emotionality as it relates to what they do for work. Okay. So they're going to have a very strong sense of work ethic, right? And work importance, right? So when the moon's in in any sort of house, right, it's going to lend to emotional connection towards that thing. Okay. So the sixth house, what does the sixth house rule? It rules pets. It rules animals. It rules coworkers. It rules the work that you do, not necessarily your career, right? The work that you do, the things you do every day that kind of lead you towards your goal, right? The health routine, right? The physical karmic debt that you have to bring to the world, right? And this is like the physical work you have to do here, not necessarily entirely in a spiritual sense, although it can be that way with the moon in certain alignments here. But the moon in the sixth definitely has a deep emotional bond towards the work that they do and why they do the work that they do, and it needs to fulfill them emotionally, right? There needs to be an emotional component to why they're doing what they're doing, right? And so when the moon is in the sixth house or in Virgo, they both have this kind of desire to feel important with what they do every single day, to feel that there is some emotional fulfillment and emotional goal being set, right? So this is someone who, their emotions become a part of their day-to-day habit, right? And so doing emotional self-care as a moon sixth house person is going to be really important, right? Taking care of your heart, taking care of your health, taking care of your emotional health is really, really important when the moon's in the sixth, because it's going to kind of go up and down and change throughout, your day-to-day, your days, right? You're never going to be feeling super productive. You're never going to feel like you can get everything done, right? And the moon in the sixth house really lends to that. It really wants you to consistently get stuff done. But the moon, because it waxes and wanes, because it changes, it's never going to really be perfect. It's never going to be a perfect day, right? You can have an ideal vision of what you want your routine to look like, but with the moon there, it kind of can change that. It can make that really kind of good one day, bad other day, right? And you're feeling your feelings, right? And so it's important to figure out how to feel your feelings and analyze your feelings in a way that is habitual, right? Even if this is like every Sunday, I'm going to do a, self-care routine, or every, month, I'm going to do this specific activity, right? That's something that I think the moon in the sixth house really can benefit from, is something that is consistently helping them feel like they are working towards some goal, right? If it's like, I'm going to take a Pilates class or a yoga class, or, I'm going to study this thing, that's something that's really a benefit to a moon sixth house, or is having something that might not be every day, but every month, right? Especially every month, because the moon takes about 28 days to go through its entire cycle. So there is an aspect here of doing something monthly that is working towards your goals. I mean, obviously you can do it more than that, but doing it on a monthly basis is really going to help you with this regard here. Now, what's interesting about the moon in the 6th is there's so many different ways that the moon can play out here, right? So depending upon your moon sign placement here, you're going to want to look to see what that ruler is of that moon, right? So if the moon is ruled by a Martian sign, look to Mars in your chart. Venus, look to Venus in your chart, so on and so forth. And so when it comes to the moon in a Martian ruled sign, right? So if we have the moon in Aries or Scorpio here, I did a video on moon in Aries, so feel free to check that out as well if you have that placement. But the moon in Aries in the 6th house has a very fighter attitude. This is interesting. When we put Aries in the 6th, this speaks to a really big desire for this person to be physically active, right? This is where I would really urge this person to be physically active, not be too hot-headed. Take care of headaches, anything with their head. And the thing is with the 6th house, there is a sense of it being related to medicine and medical ailments, and just health issues. That's something that the 6th kind of brings up. And a lot of people speak so negatively about the 6th house because it is considered a more difficult house within the natal chart. And it's important to understand that depending upon the 6th house placement and house, kind of status and kind of how it's working, you're going to see different potential health things come up or health desires. And I think that's where the 6th house really desires for this person to have a healthy routine, right? So this is not meant to be diagnostic by any sorts of mean. It's just something that is related to medical astrology and how those things kind of come up. So the moon in Aries in the 6th, this is going to be someone who really needs to take care of their head, to take care of their, their impulsiveness, work on their headaches, work on, any sort of inflammation is very like Martian. This is very similar to Moon in Scorpio as well here, the other Martian sign. But it is definitely something that I would urge this person to do a lot of physical activity. When we have Moon in Aries in the 6th house, this person's typically going to be a Scorpio rising. So this is going to be a very Martian individual organically anyway. But they really do need to really bring out, if they have the moon in Aries and you're a Scorpio rising, you really need to work on, and definitely look towards your Mars placement for sure, because this one has a lot of power and a lot of will, and it's about really learning how to work with that will, and work with what you can accomplish within a day to make sure you get a workout in, or you get, your sauna in, or your steam bath, like steam shower, or whatever it may be, or your, kickboxing. That's something that I think is really interesting about when we put Mars in the 6th house with the moon here, because Mars really likes to be in the 6th house. It likes to be productive and go after goals. So there is a sense of like a lot of productivity here where Mars is like, okay, give me something to do, right? And so when we have moon in Aries in the 6th, there is this power of just something to do, giving them something to do, I think is really, really important here. And don't let your emotions take control of what you need to get done, right? Don't you're going to be really emotional about what you get done and kind of follow that impulse. Really understand that there is a sense of slowness that needs to kind of work with that, a sense of understanding that there's someone else that you have to interact with, or right, it's not all about you all the time, although it needs to be when it comes to your health. There might be things that you are not, you might be taking too fast, right? Once again, look to your Mars sign there as well. Moon in Scorpio in the 6th, this is going to be the health surgeon. This is going to be someone who could very much be a healer. I said this in the other video, but anything with water in the 6th house is going to have a lot of healing capabilities. Moon in Scorpio in the 6th, there is definitely a health, not definitely, there is more than likely a health-related thing or a mental or physical health kind of ailment that needs to be overcame, right? And even if it's just overworking themselves, right? With the Moon Scorpio in the 6th, there is likely a overworking kind of capacity where they're kind of putting themselves through a lot of intense work and intense day to day. And this could be someone who is a dispatcher, right? And there's a lot that they're taking in energetically and emotionally throughout a day. There's a lot of emotional intensity, but the Moon Scorpio in the 6th really thrives in that. They thrive in that chaos and that intensity. Or police officers or ER doctors, ER nurses, you could see that with the moon in the 6th house here in Scorpio. And it's a lot about being able to transmute and detoxify that. Work with the Moon Scorpio in the 6th. Work with any sexual health things, as well as digestion, yes, but more of a detoxing, right? Detoxing the energy that you're acquiring throughout the day when Moon's in Scorpio in the 6th. There's a really deep need to like detox and purify the emotional kind of stuff that you're dealing with. So there is a really deep need for that. This is one of the more difficult placements, I would say. If we had this combination in a chart, there would be a deep working with the mother, working with empowering the mother, empowering women can definitely happen here with the moon Scorpio in the 6th. We'll get to the moon Scorpio in its own video when I get to Scorpio season, but just kind of trying to go briefly, but these are getting a little bit longer, so it is what it is. But anywho, so yeah, moon Scorpio empower themselves for the work they do, be a surgeon, work, in empowering environments with the public too. There's definitely some psychological intensity here. Now, moon in a Venusian sign. So now we have, moon in Taurus, moon in Libra. These are going to be the ones that have a little bit more ease with their day-to-day. Not saying that it's not going to fluctuate, right? Because the moon still fluctuates, it still changes. But when we have the moon in a Venusian sign, especially Taurus, there's going to be a lot more stability here. And this could be someone who runs, a homeless shelter or a food pantry, or someone who is very caring in what they do throughout their day, and is very much helping sustain other people, helping sustain themselves, right? This could be a really sensitive teacher as well. When we put the moon here, there is a sensitivity to caretaking in children, and kind of doing anything maternal in their day-to-day is really important. The moon in the 6th can generally do maternal things in their day-to-day, but in Taurus it does have a more calm, grounded, maybe real estate, right? Maybe something that is food-based can definitely happen here. Moon in the 6th has like a food-based energy, or working in a restaurant. There could definitely be that. Working in some sort of service with the public. Moon 6 tends to have that no matter what sign it's in. But in Taurus, it's very much making money through what you do for the public, and it's typically of service. So nurses, servers, bartenders, those sorts of things. Any sort of, even also like people that help with like cars and things. That's more like moon Mercury, but it can still happen with moon Taurus, or moon Venus, I'm sorry. Except moon Venus, when we put it in Libra, this is going to be more of the PR person, the PR work, the one that is really, this one's interesting because this one puts, this one, once again, what's interesting about these alignments here is that when we put moon in Libra in the 6th house, this person is, likely a Taurus rising. So much like we had with Scorpio rising, we had the Scorpio rising with moon in Aries in the 6th. The Taurus rising with moon in Libra, this Venus placement becomes really, really important. So if you have your moon in Libra in the 6th house, very much look to your Venus placement. It's going to have a lot of power and a lot of importance about what you're valuing in a person, in yourself, and how you're bringing that out to the public, and how you work with the public. So definitely work within that and kind of connect with those things. That will definitely help you there. And wait till my next season where I do, moon in Libra. So you can definitely check that out. Yeah, the moon and Mercury, like I said, there's some car related work here. Someone who needs to really understand, kind of to go back with the Venus stuff. Moon in Taurus with the health, work towards the lymph nodes and the throat. Moon in Libra is going to be the kidneys and the liver, and kind of anything that, well, the liver less so, but more so the kidneys, as well as any sort of like adrenal glands, which is kind of also, lymph nodes in a sort of way. But point is, looking to help your health in relation to like sugar as well. There can be a sugar intolerance or some sort of food related toxicity here with moon in a Venusian sign. But all that aside, moon and Mercury, we have Mercury being moon in Gemini or moon in Virgo. In the 6th, these are going to be the ones, like I said, their work that they do is very mercurial. So these are the ones that you would see being the mailman, especially moon Gemini is very mailman energy. Moon Gemini just has that mailman, sales, anyone that works with cars, anyone that goes and collects things. What's interesting is I was just thinking about this the other day, because it was Sunday the other day, and on Sunday here in the States, we put out our trash and our recycling on the side of the street. And it's interesting because every kind of Sunday you always see these kind of junk cars or junk collectors kind of come through and collect all these different things and inevitably like sell them or improve upon them or learn them and tinker with them or whatever. That's very moon Mercury, very moon Virgo, very moon Gemini, kind of taking those things and improving on them, right? So these are the people that could go and pick up parts from cars and kind of make a new car from that. And so these are very car related people, but also health related people. The moon Virgo, obviously this video is for you here, but moon Virgo in the 6th, there is almost a really deep connection with their, their physical health, their vitality, what they do for work. Their digestion becomes a really important thing because Virgo rules the digestive system. So being able to digest information, digest your feelings is just kind of a thing that moon Virgo and moon 6th house needs to know. But yeah, the moon in the 6th and a mercurial sign definitely has like salesman, car energy, writing, student energy, teacher energy here. It's pretty interesting. Moon in its own sign in Cancer here in the 6th. We can see this as someone who really has like a deep sensitivity to the work that they do. This is where, once again, you'll see a really deep like maternal instinct here, like it was with moon in Taurus, except this one has a very deep connection to their mother and definitely working for their family. This is what you'll see, like a family business. Moon in the 10th can do this too, moon in Cancer in the 10th. Family business, working with the family, working close with the family ties, or just working in something maternal. Working with, specifically their emotional care. That's a big thing. When we have the moon in Cancer, watch that video if you want to check it out. There's a lot of deep emotional processing they need to understand the power of. And I think this could be, once again, like I said, with moon Scorpio, this could be someone who is really, really emotionally well-adept and becomes a therapist or someone who's emotionally helping someone on a day-to-day basis, right? Moon in Leo in the 6th, this is someone who has a creative endeavor to some degree. They really want to create something new, understand something differently about themselves, improve their own creative life, right? If you have moon in Leo, obviously that video is already done, so check that out as well. But in the 6th house with Leo here, there is they need to find more joy in their day-to-day life. They need to maybe work with children, work in an environment that brings them joy and brings them a sense of connection to their inner child. Inner child work's kind of a big one here, working with their heart, leading from that heart, understanding that heart, doing something they love in their day-to-day. This is where you'll see a lot, like I said earlier with the moon in the 6th house, just in general, it's about doing the work that you really love on a day-to-day basis. This is really important for the moon Leo in the 6th house. They really want to be admired for the work that they do. So these could definitely be bosses or, leaders in their specific field. Moon in Jupiter sign. So we have moon in Sagittarius and moon in Pisces. This one has a little bit more of a philosophical bend to it, obviously, because the moon in a Jupiter ruled sign really wants to believe in what it's doing. So these could definitely be people that follow their faith every day or follow some sense of faith every day, really lean into their own meaning behind what they're doing. These are ones that can really search for the meaning behind anything that they're doing, right? Moon in Sag in the 6th. This could be someone who really, really needs to feel like they have a purpose behind what they're doing in their work. These are the teachers. These are the motivational speakers. These are the ones that go on stages and proclaim something, right? And help guide people through their light, right? Moon in the 6th house in fires can just have a lot of energy to give to people and inspire people. Moon in Pisces in the 6th, like I said, with the moon's Cancer and Scorpio in the 6th, working with their emotions and working with others' emotions is really important here. These are healers for sure. Moon in Pisces in general has healing energy to it, but in the 6th house, it definitely has more of a healing work that they do. So this is definitely a healer, definitely a psychic, someone who, I don't like saying definites, but it's someone that has a really deep emotional connection to their spiritual center. And it's important for them to understand how to connect to that, right? Now, moon in Saturnian signs, so Capricorn, Aquarius in the 6th house. This is where you're going to want to look to, obviously, Saturn's placement to see what's going on. If you've been through your Saturn return already and you have your moon in a Saturnian sign, it's going to improve that specific emotional thing. And so this is someone who definitely has a career in the public for sure. Moon in Capricorn in the 6th has that. It really has a really, once again, boss energy here, but these are the ones that really want to work their day-to-day to be something, right? To be something really, really professional. These are the ones that are kind of carrying the family weight on their back, as we'll see when we get to moon in Capricorn eventually. they're really carrying a lot of responsibility with this one. This one's really heavy. Moon in Aquarius is a little bit different in the sixth. This is one that's kind of eclectic and weird and has different relationship with their coworkers, and their coworkers can have, they could have a lot of different jobs that they do, a lot of different things that they do. They could definitely work online here. Moon in Aquarius just kind of has that with connecting to groups and the collective, but working online or having an online routine or something that is virtual can definitely be of service to them. Or they could be of service to others through virtual means, right? So think of like virtual doctors or virtual therapists as well. You could see that there too. But Moon and a Saturnian sign in the sixth definitely has some responsibility that they really feel on themselves to complete and do something different, and really solidify or innovate their routine based off of what their family did. So there's a lot of family related things, as you'll see with the moon here. Family responsibility, family routine, working with the family, working with the public, and kind of relearning how your family is, or experiencing your family dynamic through the public. That's kind of something that you'll see a lot with the moon in various parts of the chart. Moon in Libra as well has that too, but the moon in Libra, or the moon in the seventh, has that aspect of it, like where it's learning and it's re-experiencing itself or its family dynamic through its relationships. But in the sixth, this is like through the work that you do, through the coworkers, through, the experiences you have every day, right? That's why when we look at the moon Scorpio in the sixth, there's someone who had a really deep, intense emotional childhood and needs to understand that those experiences do exist and can exist on a daily basis and still be valuable, right? So there is a sense of the moon in the sixth that is really projecting its emotional center and emotional needs and how it understands itself and how it can see itself into the work that it does, into its coworkers, into, what its goals are and its health, right? So the emotional story it's telling itself is really important when it relates to health. I would really urge anyone that has their moon in Virgo, moon in the sixth house, or Virgo placements in general, to look up what's called metaphysical anatomy. It works with the psychosomatic patterns related to specific illnesses and kind of lets you know what is going on within your mind and your thought process and your psyche that may have manifested those specific ailments, right? And so the moon Virgo, moon sixth house definitely has that need where it really, really needs to understand its own emotional imprint that is affecting its health. That's kind of an overall with moon in general, but especially moon in the sixth, the emotionality of the individual is really affecting their health. It affects everybody, but I think moon sixth, it affects them way more about how it's connecting to their day-to-day. They need to have a day-to-day that is emotionally regulating. They need to regulate themselves on the daily. And that could be towards their goals. That could be, towards just being in solitude, or once again, like I said earlier, having that monthly routine or a monthly check-in, I think is really important for the moon, for lunar individuals as well. There is definitely just a really important thing here when it comes to, excuse me, when it comes to a lot of power around their routine. Sorry, I'm calculating something in my head here. I really want to bring up as well, for those of you that have your moon in Sagittarius in the sixth house, this is your chart ruler. So this becomes really important for you to understand the work that you do on a day-to-day basis and really pull your philosophy into that day-to-day work. Because when the chart ruler is in the sixth house, this really brings up a lot of you goes into the sixth house. So this is where you're going to really want to understand your meaning behind what you're doing. This is a really big one. So if you have your moon in Sag in the sixth house, I would love to hear your story and how that has how your family's beliefs have kind of imprinted you and how your mother's beliefs too. And of course too, you want to look to see what the ruler of that moon sign's doing. So in this example would be Jupiter, but also the aspects as well to kind of see more of a holistic picture of what's going on in the chart, because there is so much more to astrology than just your moon placement. Although the moon in Sag in the sixth definitely has a really big sort of importance here of just really understanding its own emotionality and its own sense of why it's doing the work that it's doing, right? There's a really big focus on that for Cancer risings that have moon in Sag in the sixth house. So that's all I have for you today. This has been quite a long video here. I wasn't expecting this to be this long, but that's what happens just as it comes through. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you guys have your moon in Virgo, moon in the sixth house, and any of these things, I would love to hear your story, what you went through, how it's been for you. And of course, obviously this is part of a larger series, so I will be doing more videos for Virgo sixth house, as well as everything after this, as well as I've already done everything before this, and that playlist is down below. And then finally, of course, as you know, I do readings here as well as private stuff, so feel free to check that out down below for booking with me if you're interested in anything with that. And then one final thing, obviously YouTube, feel free to like, comment, share, subscribe, all those things. I appreciate you for being here. I'm loving the fact that I can do this for work. This is such a enjoyable thing. It fills me up with joy to be able to give this to all of you, and really live in my purpose in a lot of ways. And I really enjoy just being able to be a part of this and be able to share my experience and my perspective on astrology, as it has helped me. And I hope that it will one day help so many other people. And that's why I do what I do. So thank you so much for being here today, like I said, and I will talk to you guys soon. Bye.